Suffering doesn't come from what happens to you. It comes from your resistance to it. If you want to break free from the endless cycle of emotional pain, there's one brutal truth you must understand. Suffering is not caused by events themselves, but by your resistance to what is. Most people go through their entire lives without ever realizing this. They remain trapped in a perpetual state of inner turmoil, constantly reliving the same pain over and over again, completely unaware that they are the ones keeping the suffering alive. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists." And this isn't just poetic language. It's a deep psychological and spiritual truth. Think about it deeply. Whenever something painful happens in your life, maybe you lose a job, a relationship ends, someone betrays you, or you face a major setback, your emotional reaction is natural. You might feel sadness, anger, disappointment, fear, confusion. All of these are valid human emotions. But here's the twist. The suffering you experience doesn't come from the event itself. It comes from your internal battle with reality. It comes from the voice in your mind that says, "This shouldn't be happening. This is unfair. I can't live with this." That inner resistance, the refusal to accept what is what transforms pain into prolonged torture. That's the true source of suffering. You see, the human mind is wired to seek control. We want life to go our way. We want to avoid discomfort at all costs. We want predictability, stability, and certainty. But life doesn't work according to our personal preferences. It doesn't obey our rules. It operates under its own mysterious rhythm. So what happens when life throws us a curveball? When things don't go as planned? Our instinct is to resist, to fight, to deny. We say, "This shouldn't have happened to me." And right there, in that moment of mental rebellion against reality, suffering begins. Let's take a breakup, for example. The natural pain of losing someone might last for days, weeks, maybe even a few months. But the suffering that lingers for years, that deep, agonizing ache, comes from refusal, from clinging to the past, from replaying the memories on an endless loop, from believing that it should have turned out differently. It's not the loss that's destroying you. It's your refusal to let go of what already is. The same goes for betrayal, failure, rejection, or any kind of loss. It's not the event that breaks you. It's the constant mental resistance to accepting what's already done. So how do we break this destructive cycle? The answer lies in a spiritual principle that, when fully embraced, has the power to change everything. Radical acceptance. Now let's be clear. Acceptance does not mean resignation. It doesn't mean that you like what happened, nor does it mean that you approve of it or that it didn't hurt. Acceptance simply means that you stop fighting with reality. You stop pouring your energy into an unwinnable war. You stop resisting what already is. Instead, you take that same energy and redirect it toward the only thing you truly have power over, your response. And when you finally accept what has happened, truly accept it, something incredible begins to unfold. The heaviness starts to lift, not because the pain magically vanishes, but because you've stopped feeding it. You're no longer fueling the suffering with your resistance. Imagine someone who's just been fired. If they hold on to anger, blame, and the belief that it was unjust, they can remain stuck in that pain for years, resenting the company, feeling like a victim, and carrying that wound into every future job. But if instead, they choose to accept what happened and ask, "What can I do with this?" they reclaim their power. They stop living in reaction and start living in intention. The pain becomes a catalyst for growth. That's the key. It all comes down to your perception. Jung often spoke about the importance of integrating all aspects of our experience, even the painful and uncomfortable ones, because pain, when accepted rather than resisted, transforms into wisdom. A major mistake we all make at some point is believing that our suffering is unique. that no one else could possibly understand what we're going through, that our pain is somehow more unbearable than what others have faced. But the truth is, pain is a universal part of the human experience. Everyone suffers. What separates those who evolve from those who remain stuck is not the amount of pain they experience. It's their relationship to it. Those who resist pain suffer. Those who accept pain grow. If you truly want to heal, if you truly want to be free, the first step is to stop waging war against life. Accept what happened. Accept what you can't change. Accept what already is. And then focus all your energy on what you can change. And here's what no one tells you about liberation from suffering. The most shocking realization is that most of your suffering never came from the event itself. It came from how tightly you held on to the pain. A relationship ended, and you were heartbroken for years. But it wasn't just the breakup. It was your refusal to let go. Someone betrayed you, and you couldn't move on. But it wasn't just the betrayal. It was your attachment to resentment. You lost an opportunity and felt stuck in life. But it wasn't just the missed chance. It was your obsession with what could have been. When you finally let go of resistance, when you stop fighting reality, suffering begins to crumble. This doesn't mean the pain disappears overnight, but it loses its grip on you. And over time, the pain turns into a lesson, not a lifelong burden. Now comes the deeper part, the one most people never even consider: how your unconscious mind keeps you trapped in suffering. Because once you understand that suffering is born from resistance, the next question is, if I know this, why do I keep repeating the same emotional patterns over and over again? And this is where everything changes. Because once you uncover the hidden answer to that question, you'll realize something powerful. You have far more control over your life than you ever imagined. So keep watching, because in the next section, we'll uncover something truly powerful. How your mind has been unconsciously conditioned to hold on to suffering. And more importantly, what you can start doing today to break free from that pattern once and for all. Let's begin with a hard truth. Your unconscious mind is programmed to make you suffer over and over again. If you've ever felt like pain just keeps showing up in your life out of nowhere, like suffering is some kind of bad luck that follows you around, then it's time to wake up to a truth that very few people dare to tell you. The reality is, you are the one repeating your pain again and again, without even realizing it. Not because you want to suffer, but because your unconscious programming is pulling you back into the same emotional loops again and again. The renowned psychologist Carl Jung put it this way in one of his most powerful and confronting statements: until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. What Jung meant is that the pain you keep experiencing is not random. It's not that the universe is punishing you or that life is just cruel for no reason. It's not that you're doomed or unlucky or cursed. It's because inside of you, deep in your subconscious, there are emotional and mental patterns that you keep reenacting automatically. You're reliving them not because you want to, but because they're familiar. They're wired into your internal system. The unconscious mind is like a hidden software installed when you were still a child. And if you grew up in an environment where love came with pain, where abandonment was normal, or where safety was never guaranteed, then those beliefs became your emotional blueprint. They weren't chosen consciously. They were absorbed, imprinted, and now they're running the show. No one tells you this. Your unconscious doesn't care about your happiness. It only cares about what's familiar. That's why even when your conscious mind wants to escape suffering, a deeper part of you keeps attracting the same people, the same situations, the same emotional outcomes. It's not a coincidence. It's a pattern. It's the invisible trap of the unconscious. Have you noticed how you always seem to end up in relationships that hurt you? Have you ever experienced moments of joy or success only to somehow ruin them or lose them unexpectedly? Do you feel like you keep running into the same kind of problems, even when you promise yourself that this time it'll be different? That's not bad luck. That's your subconscious mind repeating what it knows. That's emotional self-sabotage at work. But why would anyone choose what destroys them? The answer lies in what you learned as a child. If you learned that love was always followed by pain or abandonment, then as an adult, you'll unconsciously seek out relationships that recreate that exact emotional experience. Not because you want to suffer, but because that version of love is what your nervous system understands. It feels familiar, and in the mind's twisted logic, familiar equals safe, even if it hurts. If you experienced rejection, humiliation, or neglect when you were young, then today you might avoid opportunities, relationships, or dreams because a part of you is terrified that the same pain will return. You may stay where it's safe, even if that means staying in a cycle of pain. And here's the part that hits the hardest. As long as you don't become aware of these patterns, you will repeat them for the rest of your life, and you'll call it destiny. You'll say things like, "Why do I always end up with the same kind of person? Why does my life never really change? Why does everything always go wrong for me?" But the truth is, it's not life. It's not fate. It's not the universe working against you. It's you, reenacting the script that was written inside of you long ago. So how do you break this unconscious pattern of suffering? Here comes the key. You cannot change what you cannot see. If you truly want to end the cycle of emotional pain, the very first step is to recognize the pattern you've been unconsciously living. You need to bring it into the light. Start by asking yourself a few deeply honest questions. What has been the dominant emotion in my life? Rejection, abandonment, betrayal, frustration, fear. What kind of relationships or situations do I keep attracting? What story am I telling myself about who I am and what the world is? When you answer these questions truthfully, something incredible happens. You begin to realize that the suffering you've been experiencing hasn't been coming from the outside. It's been coming from within you. You've been projecting it onto the world again and again without realizing it. And that is the moment when everything starts to change. Breaking the cycle of emotional pain doesn't mean you'll never feel sadness, anger, or frustration again. Those emotions are part of being human. But what it does mean is that you'll no longer be a prisoner of a hidden pattern that controls you without your awareness. Because the moment you become conscious of your unconscious programming, you stop being its slave. You can't avoid all pain in life, but you can stop recycling it. You can stop perpetuating it. You can stop choosing it without even realizing you are. From that moment on, you begin to choose consciously instead of reacting on autopilot. And in the next section, we're going even deeper. We'll explore how the ego plays a central role in keeping you trapped in suffering, and more importantly, what you can do to dismantle its power before it keeps sabotaging your life. Because once you understand the role of the ego in all of this, that's when you finally begin to reclaim your power.